The Endurance Asia podcast.
And always tell a truthful story if they ever ask. Stop the complaining cause things ain't that bad.
Hi, welcome to the official winners of the Unofficial Oxfam Trailwalker. We've got here John Ellis, Veronica, is it Vadovakova?
Yes.
Did I say it right first time?
Wow.
Awesome, yes. And Ryan Whelan, you're fresh off the back of running the Oxfam Trailwalker from yesterday after it was cancelled, but you guys persevered and got to the start line. And so really, really excited to hear the story of the race and how it all came through. But I suppose firstly, should we go around introductions? I'm keen to hear a bit about your background in endurance sports, but also how you started trail running. Starting with you, Ryan, if you want to give us a bit of intro for yourself.
Hi, yes. So I came to Hong Kong in 2010.
From the UK originally?
From the UK, yes, yeah. Warmer climates. And before you know it, became involved in dragon boating. Somebody said if you're new to town, it's the thing to do. You meet lots of new people and I did that really and loved it, loved the team sport aspect. And then came to winter and it's like, okay, what do I do now? So did a few trail runs, King of the Hills, and enjoyed it. Rubbish, back of the pack, but new to mountains and it was fantastic.
Yeah, nice. Were you a runner back in the UK, or what was your sport when you were back in the UK before moving to HK?
A few road half marathons and just did a road marathon as well. Nothing too special. Just for fun.
Yeah.
And for fitness, So always been a passion, and out here you've got the beautiful mountains, so good to try it out.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks, Ryan. Veronica, what's your backstory?
So my backstory, I moved to Shanghai 6 years ago. And the first few years in a big city, it was super exciting, a lot of things to do. But after the first 3 years, I realized, okay, I had enough of this party life and I need something else. And I wasn't sure that even existed in a big Chinese city. But all of a sudden, I realized there are all these amazing communities with people who are running together, cycling, doing different type of sports. So I kind of made new friends. I joined these communities, and similar to Ryan, we just kind of wanted to challenge ourselves. So I first started with triathlon. So we trained for our first triathlon together. Then I did a few of triathlons in China, outside of China. And then one day my friend told me you love nature and you love mountains, so why don't you try to do a trail run? So that was 2 years ago, and that was my first trail running race. And I finished as the second one, so I'm like, okay, I'm probably not bad. But then I just...
What race was that?
That was a 26K race somewhere in China.
Yeah.
But I kind of just continued with triathlon because all my friends were doing it. But then last summer, I just kind of wanted to do a little bit more of trails. So I signed up for 2 more races in China, another race back in Europe, and I won all of these races. So then I'm like, okay, it's time for the next level. So I signed up for my first 70K and 85K. And this year I started competing for the Asia Trail Master.
Yes.
So that's how I also met with John. And so far I won all of these races.
Wow.
So I was just...
Too easy.
Where are you from originally? You're from Slovakia?
Yes, I'm from Slovakia.
Very cool. And because I knew that you'd done triathlons before. You did a 70.3, the World Champs recently this year.
Yes, so I qualified last year and I did the World Championship this year in Nice.
Nice. How did that go?
It went well, but I just found my passion in trail running. So I kept on doing triathlon, and I like to run. I like to cycle. I like to run. I don't like the swim part. So I realized I have this weakness, and I will never be as good in triathlon as I can be in trail running. So I just kind of want to go with my strong
with
side.
your strength.
My strength.
Yeah, very cool. Interesting. So Mr. Ellis. I suppose needs no introduction, but go on, sir.
Definitely needs an introduction. I guess I've always been a runner. When I did little athletics, it's when I was I guess at primary school, I always liked the longer stuff. I think it was because I wasn't very fast, and that's still the case. So, if I run against people at the short stuff, they'll run past me. If I find that I can run long, and so I've always done the longer stuff. Back in Sydney, I was a road runner, and then came to Hong Kong in 2010, and there's not much in the way of road running here, and the mountains and the trails are just amazing. So much variety, and they're right on your doorstep. Took me a couple of years. Coming from Australia, the heat and the humidity here can be pretty oppressive, and just the hills, like they're steep and there's a lot of steps, and that was hard. But I've just kept it going. I've loved every minute of it, and like most trail runners, you're always looking for the next challenge, and so started with sort of 15Ks, and then 20, then 50, then hundreds, and I guess got up to 300, decided that was a little bit too long, and these days I sort of like doing the 50 to 100s.
Was that the 4 trails? That
that was the 4 trails. Yes, the 4 trails.
And never again.
Sometimes I think that. And other times, when you forget how much it hurt, you're tempted.
I seem to remember a story of you, like, with serious chafing, like running up Lantau Peak at the end of that, like... I know you normally run topless, but you were, like, fully naked.
No, I mean, it was actually the opposite. I actually had a T-shirt on, and I didn't have shorts or pants.
Oh, no. There's a vision for everyone.
There was a lot of mist, so it was okay.
So John, take us back to Oxfam Trailwalker last year. You pulled a team together for Gone Running Joint Dynamics last year, an all-male team, and you guys absolutely smashed it, didn't you? What happened last year?
Yeah, I mean, we were just really lucky last year. Everything just came together, and it was, in a lot of ways, it was kind of everything was perfect, and that just never happens in Trailwalker. Yeah, you pick 4 people, and then someone can't train, someone gets an injury, and then on race day, things happen, and the dynamic's not right, and people blow up. But actually, it all just came together so perfectly. So it was Jeff Campbell, who'd never run 100 before, but it was sort of deadly fast on stuff up to 50. Brian McFlynn and Michael Skobierski, who are just very solid on anything that they do. And we wanted to win, but the Nepalese team I think they'd won the past 2 years, and so we knew it would be tough. And I think on a head-to-head, if they ran their best race, like, they would beat us. So all we could do was try and run the best race that we could, just pace well, make sure no one blew up, and give ourselves a shot at the end. And so... we ran out there, checkpoint 2, we're half an hour behind them, but we didn't panic. We said, look, this is our strategy. We're going to keep it together. We're going to try and finish strong. And throughout the day, people gave us the updates, and it was down to 25 minutes, to 15 minutes, to 10 minutes. The second last checkpoint, it was 4 minutes. The last checkpoint, it was 2 minutes. And that's when Jeff Campbell, who just had a second win and just led us out, we did 4:30s around the reservoir, and we caught them, we zipped past, we completely buried ourselves to do it, but it worked, and we ended up sort of pretty much getting our target and winning Trailwalker.
Yeah, that was amazing. And it was so 12 hours you did it in last year, and to win it for the first time. Because Gone Running Joint Dynamics, you've had teams in, like, for the last few years, wasn't it? So that was the first time as a team that... I think maybe one of the women's teams had won prior to that, had they? Or
no, we've had sort of various mixed teams, and we've always been sort of high 13s, and someone's blown up, and to be honest, it took me 6 goes to win Trailwalker, and here we are with Veronica and Ryan, and they're 1 from 1.
Yeah, and at the end of last year, because I remember hearing from you and you saying, we might pull together a mixed team for next year, and that was like immediately after the race, right? So was it like a year in the planning to be able to pull together a mixed team? How did that process work out?
I mean, we had drinks straight afterwards just to thank the support team, and with these, everyone focuses on the runners, but we had an amazing support team led by David Jack here at Joint Dynamics, and a whole crew of support runners who looked after us. But the drinks, we thought, what's the next challenge? Maybe a mixed team and maybe a ladies team, and so that was the genesis. Probably didn't do anything on it for probably 6 months, and then it starts to get a little bit closer. We get the teams, and then it's just trying to figure out, trying to slot the right people into the team, and then start training, coming up with a strategy, and making sure everyone's on board.
Yeah. So, I mean, over to you then, Veronica. Like, how When did John reach out to you about joining Oxfam Trailwalker 2019?
So I think I was the last one to join. John just texted me one day. It was probably like 1 month before, so there was still enough
Because you'd already
time.
moved back from Shanghai to
Yes,
Slovakia,
so I moved
right?
to Slovakia, but I have the time right
You
now.
have a
So
passport.
he approached. Yeah, I have a passport, and he just asked me. He told me like, "Well, the girl who was supposed to run with us, she can't do it anymore. So it would be great if you can join." So I was like, "Okay, just give me a few hours or days to think about it." And like the same day, I already told him like, "Yes, I'm in," because I was tempted. I never did 100K before.
So sorry, you'd never done 100K before. Like, what was the furthest distance you'd done prior to this race?
The furthest was 86.
Right. Okay.
And I just thought like this is the perfect opportunity to test this distance because I will be running with a team and I trust John, like, he's the winner from the previous year. So I was like absolutely sure like nothing can go wrong. And this will be like my opportunity to try and run my first 100K.
That's amazing. And Ryan, how were you tapped up to join the team?
So we had a casual chat, I think maybe over the summer, August maybe, and my first thought was maybe a year too early for me. Yeah. I'd only done a few 50s and, he was just gauging interest, and then was asked again a month later. There was a bit of a shuffle in the team, and I asked for a few days to think about it. Spoke to my coach, who's also the same coach as John. And he said,
and Andy Dubois, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And he said, yeah, you've got the fitness. Do it if you want to do it. And said 100K is long, so make sure you want to do it. And again, I thought like, what better chance to do your first 100 with a team? Much better than solo, I think. And yeah, I gave the decision, and there we go. We trained, and
And I think at this point, Ryan had only done, 50Ks maximum?
50K, yes, yeah.
Wow. So how from there, so you're offered to be part of the team. A big part of when you are racing together as a team is training together as a team, because you're all in. I mean, obviously, Ryan, you're here in Hong Kong, so you get the opportunity to go out with John. But for you, Veronica, when you're based in Slovakia, and you've never run with these guys before, so what was the plan to make sure that you gelled as a team and that you were all on the right training plan together?
Well, I was also using the same coach, so he knew about our plan to run the Trailwalker, and he was familiar with the race. So I think we were all sort of like doing the same training, although not in the same place. So I think that was quite good that we all had sort of like very similar structure to the training.
Interesting. So with that, did Andy actually fine-tune all your training plans to put? Was this now your A race for the season?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had to change some plans. The most important was I needed to get a 65, 70 kilometer race in.
Yeah.
It would have been too much to go from 50 to 100.
Yeah.
So I cancelled a couple of the smaller races and purely focused on a 70k training run, followed by 3 weeks practice and then the 100k.
Okay.
Yes,
So you did, the furthest you went was a 70k as a training run. Was it as part of a race, or
it was? Yeah.
Which rate?
Lantau 70.
Oh, okay. That's not a training run. That's one of the most brutal races in Hong Kong.
I think it started as a training run, but then it became quite competitive.
Yeah, well, was supposed to take it easy, which I did, and then was close to the front, so I pushed. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you finish on the podium for that as well?
I did, yes.
Yeah. So Solomon won it, and then did you come in second or third, or?
Paul overtook me with about 10k to go. Unfortunately, I'd done the Moontracker 50k the week before, so I was in a pain cave. So I got so much experience of running on heavy legs. So yeah, I think that was really good test. And then going from really dark place during a 70, thinking how can I? At one point, I looked at my watch and I was thinking, another 40k to go. This is going to be brutal. So a few dark times, but that set me up really well to do 100k.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it's a really good race. It's always quite difficult though when you have when you go under race conditions and have it as a training run, because just the adrenaline of being in that start line fever and
The red mist comes down.
yeah, it's hard not to get competitive, isn't it? But and John, did anything? I suppose was this your A race for the season as well?
This was, I guess, the A race for this quarter.
Yeah.
For his month.
No, but this has been a big focus for me as well. So I've been like Veronica, sort of working on Asia Trail Masters this year and trying to give that a good crack. But yeah, I mean, Trailwalker's a special one. It's just such a big race, and to get to run it with some good mates and to try and bring it all together as a team is pretty special. It's not, you don't get to do it very often.
Yeah. And in fact, just on that then, just talk about the Asia Trail Master, because we've actually got Alessandro Sherpa came on, he's coming on the podcast soon, and he obviously took the win away last year. You're in prime position this year, John, for the male win. Are you going to be there there in Malaysia for the final race? Is that the last one that you're doing of this Asia Trail Master season?
Yeah, that's the plan. Fortunately, I'm in decent position at the moment. I haven't been able to do all the races I wanted to. We had a second kid in July, but I've had a couple of good results in some of the bigger races. There's a Japanese runner called Hisashi Kitamura who's been super strong this year, and I think we've all been lucky that Alessandro Sherpa's been injured, because on his day, like, he's impossible to beat. I've raced him at short and I've raced him at long, and he's really tough. I struggle. So I think we've all been a little bit lucky that he's been a bit injured. But yeah, still got to get one more good result to lock it down, and probably the same with Veronica.
Yeah, what's the deal with you, Veronica?
So actually I will be back in Asia in 3 weeks, because similar to John, like I did pretty well this year, but I only participated in 4 races, so you need to have results from 5 different races. So I'm coming back for one in Japan, which is beginning of December, and then the last one in Malaysia, which is the weekend after.
So you're going to do both those races back to back?
Yeah,
okay.
That's the plan.
Wow. Have you been doing any of the Asia Trail Masters as part of it as this season, Ryan, or is it something you'd look at for next year?
No, so I did an overseas race a month ago in Borneo, Malaysia.
TMBT?
Yes, correct, yeah. So I gave that a go, and it was fantastic.
It's a great race, isn't it?
Just the atmosphere. I think it's a big deal for Borneo, and just to meet some of the running community who, do a lot of the races around the Asia Trailmaster. So it was fantastic, and I would definitely go back again. I'm not sure about the series, but yeah, maybe just a couple of races.
Yeah, I think we'll have him in there next year.
We'll see.
So, moving on to Trailwalker then. Obviously, there's been a lot of challenges in Hong Kong recently, and really sad to see that the race was cancelled. I was due to run as well, and travelling up from Singapore, I decided to stay back until arriving today. But what was your reaction when you guys first heard that the race had been cancelled, especially given, Veronica, you'd flown all the way in from Slovakia. You guys had been planning this for a year. When you first got the news, what was your initial reaction? I suppose firstly with you, Veronica, having just flown halfway across the world to race.
Well, we were all super disappointed, but we kind of had a strategy meeting before it was announced. And we agreed, no matter what happens, we will do the run and we will take part in the unofficial race, because I think so many teams were training hard for a very long time, so we didn't want to give up on it. That's my opinion on it. I think, of course we were disappointed, but that's how it is at the moment, so we just had to adjust.
Yeah. And John, what was your,
Yeah, I think we were all just gutted. We put in a lot of time into this, and a lot of preparation, and so many things happened behind the scenes to make it all happen on the day. And we were gutted, but at the same time, this was almost like what happens in a trail race where things happen that you can't prepare for, and you have to adjust on the fly and figure out what's the right thing to do to get to the finish line here. And we had that chat as a team. We decided we all wanted to do it. Having said that, unfortunately, we did lose a team member in the last couple of days, and we were fortunate enough to be able to rope in Tom Robertshaw. who was a pretty handy replacement, as it turns out.
Yeah, that's not a bad sub-in.
We found out yesterday that when he did Hong Kong 4 Trails, he actually did the Mac in 12:45, which is exactly our time.
Yeah.
But that was the first 100 Ks of a 300 K race.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's pretty strong.
I think we slowed him down on the uphills.
Yeah.
All 52 kilograms of him.
Yeah.
What was your reaction, Ryan, when the news first came out around the race being cancelled?
Of course, very sad. You could sort of see it coming, so
Yeah.
you would accepted it a little bit more easily, and yeah, pretty sad, of course, for ourselves, but then for the charity itself.
Yeah.
It's really sad news. A friend from the running community had just had a third child and had really looking forward to this. So, it's just very sad. But then we're all here in Hong Kong. We're fit. We're able to run. So it was going to be a given that we were going to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you'll all agree that it was probably the right decision for the race directors to make. I mean, it's not just about the runners, it's about all of the support crews, all of the people that are manning the aid stations, and just the amount of logistics that goes into a race like that. I know there's 5,000 runners, but actually the amount of people that are involved on the day is probably 5 or 6 times that, right?
I think it's maybe like 6,000 or 7,000 when you add in the volunteers and the supporters and everyone else, and they're sort of coming and going throughout. And I guess if you don't know that they can be 100% safe, then you have to ask some pretty serious questions about whether it should go ahead.
Yeah. And so you all decided to still race. Obviously, Jeff, that was originally supposed to be racing, you were because I remember last year you trained with a team of 5 for the. Did you have the same strategy this year?
No, we sort of almost had an embarrassment of riches last year. So we had a team of 5, and it's a little bit ruthless because at some point, a month out, you've kind of got to make a decision on someone who's been training and working, kind of gets cut. But unfortunately, Justin Andrews, who's an amazing runner, but he's had some injuries. Brian McFlynn's moved to Switzerland. He's doing 2:30 marathons now instead.
Yeah,
And so we simply just didn't have the 5. So we scraped together 4, which turned into 3, and then we got it back to 4 just at the last minute. But that was enough.
Yeah. And then so the strategy going into the race, I suppose, like from the very beginning, the goal was obviously to win the race, right? But then you went back and looked at the historical timings for the race? So yeah, what was the goal time, and what was the sort of like pacing strategy, and I suppose the support crew plan for the race? Everyone looks to John.
John's plan.
No, I mean, with the team that we had originally, with 13 hours was I guess the target, and we had 3 goals. One was we'd like to win the overall race. We wanted to win the mixed team race, and then we wanted to win or get the mixed team record. So 3 different goals. We thought the best chance was you can throw numbers out there about what you want to do, aspirational targets, but really picking a realistic target was the best way to make sure you don't go out too fast and blow people up. And so 13 hours was what we thought we could do. With what happened, obviously sort of Jeff being slammed at work and then replacing with Tom, we lost a lot of our support runners that we didn't know what the checkpoints would be like. So we actually moved the 13 hours to 13 and a half. We thought that was probably quite realistic. And so we just basically set off there. I mean, at the end of the day, the schedule it's a guideline, but it's not the be all and end all. And I think, we went through on target for the first couple of checkpoints, but then, from stages 3 and 4, we sort of started to get a bit ahead of it. And, I've done Trailwalker a number of times. I've seen teams blow up, and actually these guys just looked really strong. And so we kind of went with it. And then, during the day, we gradually got more and more time off our schedule. We moved to the front and just kept it going.
Yeah. And so did you still have... Because a big part of Trailwalker is that you can have a full support crew. So mules the whole way, and people meeting you at any point you want to be able to deliver you supplies. So I can imagine once the race was cancelled, you might have lost quite a few of that support crew. What did it go from and to? Like, how many did you have originally, and then how many did you end up with on the day?
So originally we had at least one runner with us at all times, and the plan was they would carry our extra waters, any extra gels. As soon as we're done with a bottle, we give it to them and stay as light as possible.
Yeah.
So we lost a lot of that support. So we had 2 runners throughout the day. So again, as John said, that's why we just adjusted our time to 13 and a half hours.
Who were your runners? You got to call out the support crew, right? They're as important as
Ormy, who was that's the first time I've ever experienced support.
Mike Orbinson. Okay, cool.
Sorry,
A race base. Yeah. Cool.
And that guy was a legend. I'd never knew what it was going to be like to run with support, and he was making us drink water, give me empty bottles, pass it to me or drop it on the floor. I will pick it up. He was fantastic. Really
What
good.
stages did he support you from?
2 and 3, yeah. So it was sad to see him go.
Yeah. And who was your other support member for the other part of the race?
So after Omi left us, we were alone for a bit. I think 20 kilometers. We were running just the 4 of us. And then for the last 40, we had Urban, who is a French runner. But he's not a trail runner. He's coming from like a track background. So he was just excited to be there. And, he was sort of motivating us when we were all
Super
dying.
excited.
He was just running back and forth and screaming like, come on, guys. And we're like, come on. We're already running for 70K. And he was so fresh and, just full on. So we were running with him almost till the end. And then we kind of lost him before the very end. So
Yeah, we dropped him.
And so, what role did each of you guys play in the team? What was your specific role, whether it be pacing or whether it be leading from the front, whether it be towing someone, or whether it be the person to just like keep everyone upbeat and everything? So, what would you say were each of your individual roles within the team? I suppose first with you then, Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess just keep on reminding people, drink. It was quite warm, so one of the first climbs near Saiwan Ho, near the beach, it was only about 9:30 a.m. and the sun was on our back, and we were running with the other teams, and you could just see how hot everyone was getting. So I guess my role, very small, but just keep telling people to drink water and nutrition as well.
Actually, probably the other thing that Ryan did as well was, I think in the last couple of stages, we thought we were winning by quite a bit, and to be honest, like the 3 of us thought, this is good. We can probably do a sub 13. Mixed records out of the question, and we're happy to cruise it in. But Ryan had different ideas.
And so and I suppose on that, the previous record for Trailwalker for a mixed team was like 12:51.
Yep, 12:51.
Okay, so that was one of your goals for the race beforehand. Yeah.
And I think we pushed pretty hard on stages 7 and 8, and then 9 we had a really good stage. We were really flying, but I think all of us were quite happy just to cruise it in. But Ryan sort of got out to the front, and he sort of kept on reminding us that how long to go, what sort of distance, and we looked at it and went, like records on, like we probably should.
So we started section 9. Everyone was strong. Nobody was really slacking. Everyone was in a good place mentally and physically. So I had a quiet word with John, and I said, right, without the others hearing, and I said, right, we've got X amount of Ks. John, you gave the last section an hour and a half. We can smash that. And I quietly said, if we go for it, we start now. Give ourselves the chance. If we start too late, we may just miss it. So he didn't really agree, but
and so the final stage of Trailwalker had actually changed for this year, right? So it used to go around Tai Lam Reservoir, which is quite flat, but this year there was a bit of elevation and steps, and what was the final part? And had you trained on the final part, knowing that it was a different route from previous years?
Yeah, Ryan and I managed to get out about a month ago, and I'm really glad that we did that. So we knew when we were chasing this record, we knew what was ahead and where we could push. The new finish it's about 1.5 K longer, and it's got a little bit of extra climbing. So we figured it's probably about an extra 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah. And so, Veronica, what was your what would you say your role was within the team, or how did it transpire? What your role was?
Well, I don't think we really had a specific role. We just all wanted to feel comfortable at all times. And then for me, I was just relying on John because he did 6 other trail walkers before, and he knows like all the trails. So for me, it was all new. I only managed to do 1 stage, like the weekend before, so I didn't know the trail at all. I was just relying on my teammates, and I knew like they were all really, really strong. So I just went with it, like whatever they said. Now we go a bit faster. Now we go a bit slower. Like I knew like this is the right pace for us.
Yeah, you've got to have such a phenomenal amount of trust in the team, right? I mean, we've all done races before where we've never done the course before, but we've not all gone to go and try and get a course record on a route we've never run before. So having not run it, just knowing what hills are coming up. So whereas everyone just preparing you for, okay, there's like a big climb, then it drops off a bit, and there's another big climb.
We were all like always aware of what's coming next, when is the next checkpoint, how much more climbing we have. So I knew exactly like what was coming. But yeah, I never ran it before, so I was just hoping like I will be able to keep up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you reckon it's actually better not having run it before, because if you know what's coming psychologically, it can actually hold you back a little bit? Do you reckon that was probably quite good for you that you actually because looking back now, I suppose things like Needle Hill coming up, or you're probably best not knowing what's coming at that point.
Yeah, I think everyone else had a stage that they really didn't like, but because I didn't know any of the stages, I was just running.
Yeah.
Although, having said that, actually, it was quite funny because I think we told Veronica that Taimo Shan was the last big hill, and once we got over that, it was basically downhill and flat. And I think something changed in her when we were getting to the top of Taimo Shan. She just ran off. And, Ryan and I were about 100 metres back, and we were getting yelled at by Erwin because so you shouldn't be talking, you're wasting energy, and why are you so far behind?
We got told off for talking, wasting energy.
Taimo Shan's actually quite that climb going up there, because it's just a road. You can actually get quite a good pace going up that last bit there, can't you? Yeah. And so did was there any massive changes in the race strategy from before to when it was going to be an official race to when it became an unofficial race? Did you apart from obviously having slightly different paces, but I suppose your goals will remain the same, but was there anything else that changed in when it was run just as an unofficial race from there?
Not really. We just had to carry more water. We knew where Dave would be, David Jacquier, with his car, but we don't know what's going on in Hong Kong, so we had to prepare ourselves and make sure we covered our own back. Take some money in case we had to buy water, and we didn't have that luxury of knowing we have support runners at all times, so had to think on our feet a bit more and keep in contact with them a little bit more. So to still get the record without that is fantastic, because
obviously there's no volunteers there, but they still left all the supplies at each of the checkpoints, right? But that meant you had to fill your own water up at every one, was that right? So that must have slowed you down a fair bit.
Well, actually, they only left the water at the checkpoints, but we had Dave at almost every checkpoint with all of the supplies that we needed and that we planned for the race. So we actually didn't even want to stop at the official checkpoints. Even there were no checkpoints, but even if there was an official race, for most checkpoints, we would just run through and we would only meet Dave and take supplies from him.
So sorry, you had Dave was driving a car to each checkpoint to meet you at each one with a full table, a smorgasbord of food and drink.
Yeah, so he got into 5 of the 5 points along the course. Some of them were official checkpoints, some were places like Sha Tin Pass or Xingmun. And he got out the runner buffet and he got out his David's elbow, which which actually came in handy for Veronica a little bit through.
Did you have a good massage at some point through it then, did you?
It was a very painful massage, but it definitely helped.
What happened? Did you?
Maybe 2 weeks before the race, I started having ITB issue.
Yeah.
So I had pain in my knee, then the pain moved to my hip. So I wasn't really sure, like, how am I supposed to run this first 100K when I actually, like, have some pain in my leg? But John told me, don't worry, you know, we have this amazing, like, physiotherapists and they can fix you before the race. So I came to Hong Kong about a week before, and I actually had some sessions before the race, and they all kind of assured me, like, this is going to be fine. And it was fine up until kilometer 50, and then I started to feel my knee again. So I got a bit worried because it was just halfway through. So then John immediately called Dave, like, Dave, we need your elbow at the next station. Like, we need to release some pressure. And it helped. I took a few painkillers, and I got Dave's elbow twice. And I managed to run to the end.
What I'm always quite interested that you took painkillers just like Panadol or paracetamol, or
I think I took a ibuprofen.
A combination
I think
of
a
the two.
combination of a few.
how's it feeling now?
Well, I was a bit worried about today because it's the day after, but I feel great. I have no pain at all, so I think maybe...
Kudos to Dave. I know, how annoying is that? You all look way too fresh to me.
We gave her lots of drugs, so give it another day.
yeah.
Knee will be bad tomorrow.
So I suppose that leads quite nicely on to we talk a lot on the podcast about getting deep in the pain cave and managing to like drag our way out. So it sounds like your ITB issues were one of them. Was there any other real low moments during the race where you where you thought, oh, I can't go on?
Yeah, I had a very low moment in the middle of the race. And then John looked a bit worried and he's like, are you okay? You kind of stopped talking for several kilometers, because before we were all like talking to each other, and I'm just like, I'm fine. I'm just saving my energy. So I think each of us had a low point at some point in the race, but it never happened at the same time. So whenever someone fell down, everyone else will kind of just like lift him up. And alternatively, I also had to be towed at some points, so that really helped.
Yeah. What sections do you remember? Like what section, and who was doing the towing? And
So it was John and Tom,
Yeah.
and it was for the Needle Hill and the Grass Hill section. I kind of felt like I can do it, but at the same time, I didn't want to waste too much energy, and everyone else felt maybe a bit better at that point. So I just agreed, and it was amazing.
Yeah. And for you, John, any moments where I was actually looking at your Strava, the Strava segments, and you guys did the last sort of 6 to 8K at like sub 5 minute Ks, like you were hammering it. Obviously, Ryan, you were like whipping everyone, but you were hitting like sort of high 160s heart rate on that bit. Like you were pushing it hard 12 hours in.
Yeah, Ryan had the whip out, so I was a little bit scared. But I think we all had some weak points. Like I think on stage 9, I was sort of drifting off the back a little bit, and the kind of cool thing was I'd been sort of telling people to go slower all day, and so when I said that again, no one really suspected that it was for me. But we all had tough moments, but the team just responded, and we did what we needed to do to get people through, and I think that's one of the reasons it worked so well.
Yeah. Did Tom have any tough moments, or was he just like floating like a cloud across the 100K the whole time?
He was pretty strong for like probably 95Ks, which actually, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I think, when Ryan says, let's do 4:45s for the last 5Ks, that's probably asking a lot of anyone. And yeah, he probably got a little bit of a push from Ryan at that point. But other than that, he was dead strong all day.
Yeah, he's a majestic runner, isn't he? What about you, Ryan? Any tough moments?
Yeah, so the last couple of climbs, so the Needle Hill and Tai Mo Shan, I was feeling quite heavy going uphill.
Were you guys using poles?
So clever people bought poles.
Actually, Ryan used poles for the very first time. We had a lesson on the way.
Yeah. So again, I was struggling a bit. So John just said, "Hey, give these a go."
Yeah, you handed them over. I was going to say.
Handed them over. I thought, "Hey, this is taking my mind off it. Let's try this going uphill." And then the gentleman that John is towards the top of Tai Mo Shan, he gave me a bit of a bungee, and that was fantastic. And when we got to the top of there, mentally, I thought, right, I know I'm strong from here out. So I really appreciate that. just to get us to
I kind of
this
wish
up.
I hadn't done it, because then you wouldn't have been so strong later on, pushing us for that record.
That came back to bite you, didn't it,
He
John?
was so strong in the last 25Ks.
Yeah. And so was it just you that used poles during the race then, John?
And Tom as well.
Yeah.
Tom's 52 kilos, so he just floats uphill, and then when he's on poles, he's like 7 steps at a time.
Yeah, he's almost like catapulting himself up,
Yeah.
isn't he? Yeah. I always find that. Well, I mean, with Oxfam Trail, with Hong Kong 4 Trails, and Andre like removing poles from, it seems that a lot of people have stopped using them. But I think for Oxfam Trailwalker, there's a few of those sections where it's really valuable, especially going up the road where you can get a really good rhythm going up Time of Sham.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you break down the course, the first 25 doesn't have that much climbing, the last 25 doesn't.
Yeah.
So a lot of the climbing is in the middle 50, so it's really set up for poles.
Yeah. And so team races. You've all done lots of solo races in the trail running scene. What do you prefer, Ryan? Starting with you first. So team or solo? What would you say would what are the differences, and what do you sort of prefer about each?
So yeah, first and foremost, first 100. So glad it wasn't solo. I would have made so many mistakes. So it was.
Such as what mistakes did you avoid by being in a team?
We went out nice and John Ellis pace, basically. I wouldn't have done that. And I would have had a horrible last 40k. So it was fantastic. We all felt super strong for the last 25k, thanks to taking it easy to begin with. So yeah, it was fantastic, and I would happily, do another 100k team race, probably over a solo race. 50k I'll do solo, but 100 as a team. I think it's more an experience, so you want to do it with your teammates, do it with your pals. Yeah.
And for you, Veronica, what about you? Are you keen to sign up for some more team races in future? Or?
Definitely. I think it was a great experience, just having other people motivating you when you feel low. So, that never happens when you're running by yourself. And then plus having all this extra support, like it was something special. So I would definitely do it again. But it's really important to have a good team, and our team dynamic was great, like from the beginning till the end. Like no one was complaining. I think we got along really well. So I think that's another important factor that made a big difference.
How did you go about doing that? Because obviously you've all got the same coach, but you haven't been able to train as a team of 4, or certainly the 3 of you. So did you jump on calls beforehand, or what did you do to try and gel a little bit beforehand and build the culture within your team?
We only had one team run, then in the end the team changed. So I think it was not about training together, because we all know we are like strong individually. It was more about like working together as a team. So not even like the physical, but just the mental, and just being on the same kind of like same level, and also just maybe listening to John's strategy, because he had it all planned and we just sort of believed in it, and we knew like that was the best strategy for the race.
Yeah. And in fact, just to you two first then, before we go to John about team or solo, what's it like being paced by John Ellis? Because he's like renowned for being like holding back and then just hammering it in the like last the second half of the race. So how did that fit with you? Because the reason I spoke to Alessandro Sherpa recently, and he was getting advice from John about managing his pace, and actually he finds that he has to stay on the front, because as soon as he's behind people he kind of loses his rhythm. But how did you guys find that, being sort of starting out slower and then pushing towards the end?
Well, I think if we had a Hong Kong dollar each time John says dial it back, bring it down, we'd be able to afford a few coffees each, some cheesecake. But he was right, and again, we wouldn't have had the strong finish we had if we pushed a little bit harder at the beginning, just to shave a few minutes here and there. So it was just have faith in it. There's an old saying from my dragon boat days. It's called trust the chug. So when you get in a dragon boat, you have all these boats around you, it's noisy, and you want to speed up because you want to go the same speed as the local Chinese crew who's next to you. And the coach always says, trust the chug. It's going to be slower. We will catch them up eventually. And it's the exact same principle in this. So trust the pace we're going. And when we caught the Hong Kong Sports Clinic team, which we were aiming to catch, I was almost disappointed we caught them too quickly. But that was always the plan.
What stage did you catch them?
Stage 4, I think.
Yeah, between 3 and 4.
Okay.
So we saw them and then hunted them down. We didn't go crazy to pass them. We thought, keep the pressure on, and then, we passed them, and then it was, we were confident.
Yeah, great. And Veronica, what about you? When you're racing solo, do you normally go out at a million miles an hour and then blow up and crawl to the finish line, or is that normally your strategy?
Yeah, usually that happens. I like to be the first one from the beginning, like similar to Sherpa, but I've seen John at different races, and I know like he starts off slow and then still, he kind of like makes his way to the front. And I never ran 100K before, so I knew like, okay, maybe this strategy works for me when I run like 50 or 70K, but maybe I will not be able to keep up this kind of pace if it's anything longer than that. So that's why I thought it was the best strategy. And also just thinking back of the victory from last year, how they also paced themselves slow and then slowly but surely caught up with the Nepalese guys and then overtook them in the last stage. I knew like, okay, this definitely worked last year, so why not this year?
Let's follow it. Yeah. And do you think you will be changing your own solo race strategy based upon this?
I think, for the longer races, I think for sure, because it was nice to have energy left in the last stages and not be completely burned out and just dying at the finish line.
Yeah.
So I think I will try to maybe not push too much at the beginning.
Yeah. And with the two of you like monitoring your heart rate during it at all? Like, I know if you weren't setting the pace, but were you checking sort of how hard you were pushing? I don't know. Do you use like anything to be able to assess the effort that you're doing during the race?
My watch is old, so I don't monitor.
Yeah.
I must upgrade and buy a new one. But just from feeling, I think the climbs towards the end, that's the first time doing over 4,500 meters. So towards the end, I was feeling the climbs, and then at the end, we were just helping each other to keep it at 4:45 pace to get the record. So, heart rate was high again, just helping to give Tom a little push.
Yeah.
So I couldn't wait to see the finish line as much as him by that stage.
Yeah. So John, actually, so before we go into the solo versus team, I'm interested to hear from you about pacing and how you've did you always have this from when you first started racing and moving towards the pointy end of races? Did you always have a go out in a measured pace and save some energy for the end?
Yeah, I mean it's always been the strategy, and I guess I'm not that, honestly, I'm not that fast, and so you kind of have to race, I guess, a little bit smarter if you want to get to the pointy end. And I've always found that works for me, and actually it's actually a lot more fun to race that way, because the first half of a race is actually really relaxed. You're chatting to people. It's like a slightly fast training run, and then you only have to really try in the second half. And the second half, especially when it starts to hurt, it's all mental. And if you're the guy going through the field picking people off, like I feel every time you overtake someone, you suck a bit of energy out of them, and that just helps to keep you motivated. And so, for me, that's always worked. That's how I've done it, and it just makes the last 30Ks and 100K race a lot more interesting, because you're chasing and there's something to think about, and you're winning because you're overtaking. It all just feeds on itself.
I don't know if you've heard David Goggins or read his book Can't Hurt Me, but he talks about like taking souls, and it's like when you're overtaking people at the last part of the race, you're like taking people's souls as you pass them. You're like it's really interesting. And how do you just do it by feel? Do it in terms of your pacing, like whether you're able to do it at like talking pace, or do you monitor your heart rate, or do you have a power meter that you're following, or is it all just by instinct?
I mean, I've tried all of those things, the heart rate and the power meter, and these days I feel like I'm pretty dialed into how I feel and what's the right pace. And it's not to say, you know, I have blow-ups as well. Sometimes I get that wrong, and you live and learn.
When?
Yeah. Lantau 70, where Ryan came in third. I think I came in fifth.
Oh, this year. You'd come straight off of running in Chiang Mai just before that weekend before as well, hadn't you?
But I still could have got my pacing better. And so, yeah, sometimes you get it wrong, and you learn from that.
I remember when I did Lantau 70, I got all the way up to the top of Lantau Peak, because obviously it goes over Sunset and then Lantau. And I got over Lantau Peak. I was just getting to the top, and you just passed me then. And I was like, I've blown it. I'm like, absolutely. John Ennis is only just overtaking me now. I have definitely screwed it. and I ended up having a horrible day out there as well. Yeah. But it's a tough race, isn't it?
Oh, really tough race. I don't know what it is. On paper, you know, you get the two biggest hills out of the way in the first 15 Ks. You know, the second half is, you know, there's a lot of sort of flat runnable. Like on paper, it should be kind of okay, but it's one of those. I think I've blown up 3 times in that race. It's just
it's well known as having a high DNF rate in and so what is your feeling around team versus solo races? Where do you how do you feel about it?
I mean, I really like the solo races, but then the team races are special. I don't think you'd want to be doing team races, or for me anyway, doing team races, you know, every weekend. But when you do them, you know, you invest a lot in it. You know, they're kind of the special ones that you really remember, and you know, the whole team sort of comes together. So I think, you know, mostly solo, but then, you know, the special team races for, you know, every so often, like we did for Trailwalker.
Yeah, and I'd really like to touch on the Hong Kong trail running community, and really the sort of how it all came together for this race. I mean, obviously a lot of people were sad that it was cancelled. I mean, and especially it's really sad for Oxfam charity as well. There's you know, they would have lost a lot of funding from the race not going ahead. Obviously, people that have donated, it's going to be moved forward to the race for next year, but that takes away a year's worth of earnings for the charity. But what was your feeling, Ryan, around just around the, I suppose, defiance of the Hong Kong trail running community? Hong Kong's going through some challenges, and everyone coming together for yesterday. What was the atmosphere like out there on the course?
Yeah, so the community in Hong Kong, I think you'll be pretty hard pressed to find anywhere in the world like it. We all know each other. We're all there for each other. You race against each other, but you motivate them and say well done if they go past you. So it's a really tight-knit community. So of course everyone was disappointed when we arrived at the start line yesterday. There was a great buzz, and you know, it was fantastic. Oxfam sent somebody to have an unofficial start of the race. There was great support on the trails, people manning the checkpoints for water, and it felt like a race. You know, there were some teams we were competing against, they were still there, and yeah, it just shows how special the community is for it to make that happen. Yeah, so it did feel like more than just a unofficial race. It felt quite special.
Yeah, and for you, John, I mean, Veronica, you've obviously, this is the first time you've raced in Hong Kong, right? Or you?
I did a race last year, but I'm not very familiar with the communities here. Yes. We didn't know what to expect, like how many people show up, but actually I was quite impressed because still a lot of teams arrived. You know, the atmosphere was the same. I haven't done the Trailwalker before, so yeah, there was obviously not as many people as there used to be, but the atmosphere felt the same. Just as Ryan said, it didn't feel like an official race, it felt like a race.
Yeah. And John, for you, it must have been a pretty special moment for you, having been heavily involved in the trail running scene for many years.
Yeah, I mean, it was just great to see the whole community just sort of rally together, and you know, it's such a tight knit community, but also sort of very resilient, and you know, I think that's the sort of characters. You know, we're all, you know, looking after each other. You know, no one's taking any unnecessary risks, but you know, there was a great atmosphere. You know, we still wanted to get it done. You know, the trails were still there, and so, you know, for a lot of people, you know, who, you know, made the risk assessment that we could still do it safely. You know, we were happy to go out and still prove that, you know, we can still get things done here as a trail community.
Yeah, that's so cool. And Cool, you did get it done. So when you think about like your goals at the beginning, it was like the main one was to win it, was to be the first mixed team, and also to get the record, and all boxes checked.
Yeah.
Like, you must be. Yeah. And in fact, on that, like, how are you all feeling today? Like, how are the legs? How did you guys sleep okay last night? I always find that sleep after a big race, you just like have it every couple of hours waking up and your legs are aching and spinning around in bed.
Yeah, it was a little bit hard to fall asleep after all the caffeine we took. But yeah, I feel great today. So I'm surprised because I took a lot of painkillers and I was warned like, oh, maybe you will wake up and you'll be really, really sore and you'll have some pain. But I don't have any pain, so maybe I should just run more 100K races.
I think you need to change your distances now. Yeah, I think that's it. What about you, Ryan? How's your how are you holding up today?
Yeah, surprisingly, really well. A few spasms last night when we were in the car on the way back, but today it's been fine. Yes.
Yeah.
For some reason, woke up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
and couldn't get back to sleep, so that was a bit
it's weird,
annoying.
isn't
So
it?
I'll
Yeah.
have an afternoon nap, I think.
And a big feed as well. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm actually planning to go out on a run in the hills this afternoon. If you fancy a recovery run.
Rain check.
What about you, John? You're looking fresh. You're looking fresh as a daisy there, mate.
Yeah, I sort of feel okay actually. I probably didn't need the 6 beers at the finish line. That was probably the worst thing this
I was
morning.
going to ask, like, what was it like at the finish line? Did you have many people there? Or?
Yeah, I think when we got there wasn't as much atmosphere. There were probably maybe 10 people at the finish line waiting. But as you sort of waited longer, and I waited out for the Gone Running Joint Dynamics women's team.
Yeah.
And yeah, more people sort of built up, and there was a really sort of fun, collective atmosphere, and yeah, it was really, really nice.
Yeah. What were some of the other good performances yesterday? I saw like the all-female Team Green did pretty well as well. Obviously, there was no official. There was like a dot tracking on there as well, wasn't there? But what were some of the other good performances from the weekend?
I mean, we were really happy, I guess, with the women's team that we had. I think the Uglo guys, they finished as 2, but they put on a really good second half. And I think at the end of the day, it's probably anyone who got out there, and there are a lot of teams we saw on Facebook with the post this morning who got it done in 20 hours or 24 hours, 28 hours. I think anyone who got it done on the day, given everything that happened, should give themselves a big pat on the back.
Yeah, completely agree. So a few like quick fire questions for you each. Then, Ryan, what makes you emotional?
Pain. When you know you've got another 20k of a race to go and you're in the pain cave, you want to cry. But Tom made a really good point yesterday, actually. We keep going back to it. Tom's last 5k where he was really struggling, and he just said out loud, pain, what was it again?
It's only pain.
It's only pain. It's only pain. And you're right. It's over soon. It's only pain. And you've just got to get through it.
I watched Jerry Chewer's one, pain is French bread, or pan is French bread. Yeah, very cool. What about you, Veronica? What makes you emotional?
I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Pain, but again, because we were going as a team, even when I felt like, I'm in pain and I just can't do it anymore, I had everyone else there supporting me. So I didn't get to the low point that I would get if I was there by myself.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's finishing the pain. So I guess when I've got my race face on and I'm going through the pain, that's okay. But then I guess as you get to the finish line and the pain's over, that's when the emotions just come out for me.
Yeah. I'm the same, like finish lines, even if I'm just watching something on Facebook or something, just seeing people get to the finish line, I'm like, made me think then just of you and the 9 dragons, mate. That iconic photo of you with your little one and
crybaby at the end.
Yeah.
Famous
Infamous. Ryan, most inspirational book that you've read? Is there a book that you can look back on that's been pretty formative for you?
Yeah, just any sports autobiographies, or if anyone's done anything special and out of the ordinary. Just when they talk about their feelings, going through it, it's and just to see how deep people dig, both mentally and physically.
Are there any that spring to mind? That any autobiographies that you'd recommend? Putting you on the spot
think,
now,
yeah.
mate. Yeah, no.
None come to mind. Let me think.
You've been up since 5 a.m.
Yes.
We'll let you off. Veronica, is there any books or any people that you found like truly inspirational?
Book, I don't think so. Maybe if you have some recommendation. I know a few people recommended me some books about trail running, but I'm just quite new to the sport, so I never really looked at any literature. So maybe if you have any recommendation that for a book I could read.
I alluded to before, David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me is a really good one, and like the audio book of that or the book is phenomenal. But yeah, I suppose with that then, who's been an inspiration to you, like either in running or just in life in general?
I think anyone who is doing these crazy races, just knowing how hard it is to do it, and not just physically but mostly mentally. Like after you reach a certain point and you're just in pain everywhere, but just not giving up and going through it. And especially sometimes seeing, you finish a race, you go to bed, on the next day you go to the ceremony, but then you still see people who are just finishing the race, really those ones who just do it as a challenge, even if they have to walk it all, and just imagining how many hours they spend in the mountains, that's for me an inspiration as well.
Yeah. I like the people that are coming in. I'm sure there are people still finishing now, actually, aren't there? I'm sure there's still a few people out there. John, what about you? Any books or what's been inspiration to you over the years?
I'll probably go people. Just Stone Sang over here in Hong Kong. When I got here, he was the guy. He was just at the top for such a long time, and it took me 2 years to actually build up the confidence to say hi to him, and he was so nice.
Such a humble guy.
Yeah, such a humble guy, and he's sort of been an inspiration for me, just in terms of how to be a great runner, but also how to be a great person. And then I guess for when I'm really I've got a big A race and I want to train for something, I think. I've learned a lot from Andre Blumberg in terms of how he approaches everything, just so sort of passionately but scientifically, and he puts the work in, and that's someone who I try and learn off for that. And then actually Alessandro Sherpa, I just the way he approaches his trail running, just the amount of passion is just blows me away, and it's just actually almost makes me a bit emotional sometimes.
Yeah, he's I got to meet him recently, just really extremely passionate dude, and it's amazing how he sort of juggles his running as well as his business career as well. I'll start with you on the next one, John. So, best kit that in fact, normally I'd ask for people the best kit that they've bought for under $100, but given that you've got a running shop, gone running, I'd say the best kit that you've sold or what's the best selling kit for under $100?
I mean, I probably, for me, I can't really go past my T8 Sherpa shorts. I'm not really a T-shirt guy. And so yesterday, it was basically, I guess, trucker, shoes, socks, and these running shorts, they're super lightweight. I got in a litre of soft flasks and my gels and my phone and everything else, and it's kind of all I need to run. So for me, it's the T8 Sherpa shorts.
I've still got to get a pair. The amount of people that have said their T8 shorts as they're under $100, I need to get involved. Veronica, what's your favourite piece of kit?
I don't really have a favorite one.
What either shoes do you run in, or what pack do you use?
So I tried a lot of different ones, and I think I still haven't found my favorite one. So I tried different pairs of shoes, different clothes, and I think I'm still sort of just looking for the perfect fit for me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And Ryan, what about you, sir?
I would just say things that make you comfortable. So again, as John mentioned, the Sherpa shorts. If you need a bit more gear for a big race, torches and stuff, there's a band as well.
A waistband with a torch on it? Or
No. Just a band where you can fit a bit more stuff, and then just very simple things. Body glide, decent socks, just things where you can do a long run or a race and you feel okay. You don't have anything niggling at you. So yeah, just simple, practical gear.
Yeah. So also quite interested in what people do like from their like day jobs as well. Obviously, we all spend a lot of time training, but yeah, what's your day job, Ryan, and what do you like? How do you balance it all? I see it's like you've got a couple of cats at home, haven't you? And like I've got
yes,
a missus, and it's her birthday. Is it her birthday today?
It was yesterday during the trail walk. Sorry.
What an amazing missus that actually still let you race, and even though it was her birthday.
Yeah, and it was an unofficial race. So yeah. Thank you. So I actually work within the sports industry. So I do sports coaching and personal training.
Okay, cool.
So some work at the yacht club, a gym on the south side of the island as well. So coach a lot of the professional football teams in Hong Kong, and some one-on-one training as well. So always up at the crack of dawn, working evenings. So I fit in my runs in middle of the day basically. So
interesting.
Summer training is not fun.
Yeah, have you been personally training John or any of the other team?
Jeff Campbell actually.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen him recently. He's been working his biceps quite a lot. So.
Yeah. And on that, what's your recommendation for personal training, like around for a trail runners, like just weekly sessions, or like, and what type of exercise, heavy weights, or what's your like headline recommendation for trail runners and personal training?
Yeah, so I just think so we're always on uneven surface, so it's important to train on uneven surface. So the Bose ball, shoes and socks off, really get the ankle ligaments working, and heaps of single leg stuff, because we're always on one leg, not two, when we're running. So make them ligaments strong, and then you're just decreasing your rate of injury during a race. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Veronica, what's your day job?
Well, I'm actually now trying to change my career path. So I used to have a regular office job in Shanghai, but since I started with all these runs and trail running and races, like I just realized like I want to do something that I'm passionate about, which was not my previous job. So now I moved back to Europe, and I would love to work in the sports industry. And actually this trip has also been really inspirational, because I met quite a lot of people who work in this industry and who are doing different things, such as personal training, physiotherapy, and I'm just trying to figure out like which one would suit me best. But definitely I would love to start doing something that I feel the passion for.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, I'm sure there'll be plenty of brands wanting to sponsor you as well, and very cool. And what about you, John? I know that you've got you wear many hats, don't you?
Yeah, yep. I guess the day job is a natural resources investment fund, so that keeps me busy. Obviously, sort of still involved with Gone Running, Hong Kong's best running shop, and then just with T8 as well. And then a couple of kids, a couple of dogs. It's quite a lot going on.
How do you balance it all? Like, I often get asked the question, and ask the question of other people, how you keep it all in alignment.
It's really hard, but I think I've got a missus who, big shout out to Elaine. I've got a missus who's very understanding and really supportive of all of that. So I couldn't do any of that without her. And then I guess the other thing, just learning off Jeff Campbell and trying to do my run training as commutes, and that's made a big difference too.
Yeah, that's always one of my best advice. Just try and fit the training in where you can, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just I suppose to close then, just recommendations for people. You guys are all fairly new to the trail running scene. I mean, John, you're slightly old, but no offense, but I mean, it's still been was it been since 2010? Yeah. So it's still only 9 years, and for Ryan and Veronica, it's been in the last 3 to 4 years, right? Any recommendations for people who want to start training hard and get towards the pointy end of races? What would you what advice would you give to yourself from 3 years ago of what to focus on? Starting with you, Ryan.
Just listen to people. There's so many knowledgeable runners in Hong Kong, and they're so happy to speak to you and give you advice. So ask questions, get their advice, and just take it from there. Figure out what you want to do as well. Do you want to be a mid-pack runner? Awesome. Enjoy it. Do you want to be at the pointy end? Okay, figure out what you need to do in order for that to happen. So yeah, I would just speak to people who are at the pointy end. They'll be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, very cool. And Veronica, any advice?
Well, learning from my recent experience, if you really want to get better and you increase the volume of your running, please do not neglect the strength training, which is extremely important. Otherwise, you will just cause yourself injuries.
Yeah.
That's-
Very cool. Thank you, Veronica. Mr. Ellis, any final closing remarks, advice for people?
I mean, I think what Veronica said is really true. A lot of people want to get better and they want to get better tomorrow, and they just crank up the volume too much. I think the volume, you can't get away from it. Unfortunately, if you want to be better at running, you've got to do lots of running. And so, there's no silver bullet. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the volume. But you've got to do it sensibly, and you've got to ramp it up slowly. And actually the cross training, we're lucky enough to be in a team where every Wednesday night we get to Joint Dynamics. They give us a bunch of different strength exercises that we work through. Some of them take a bit of coordination that we don't quite have, but it makes a big difference. And I think, if you can get that strength and you're not getting injured, that's the best way to get the volume.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, look, I really appreciate you all joining the podcast today. Massive congratulations for a phenomenal run. I'm sure, one of the best team runs of the past year for sure. I reckon that you're going to be running together quite a bit in future. I know that you'll be seeing each other at races at the Asia Trail Masters finals in Malaysia. But yeah, huge congratulations. Thanks for representing the trail running community in Hong Kong and sort of keeping spirits alive for everyone. Really appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Cheers.
The Endurance Asia podcast.
And always tell a truthful story if they ever ask. Stop the complaining cause things ain't that bad.